In this lesson, we'll be looking at a bond that's issued below its face amount. This happens because the stated rate on the bond is below the market rate. That means it's issued at a discount. This scenario demands two new tools to account for the difference between what the bond issuer is offering to pay and what the bond holder expects to receive: the effective interest method and the amortization schedule. Don't worry, I'm going to build them up slowly because once you understand the discount, the premium is just the mirror image. Suppose you decide to issue some bonds, and after working with the bank, you've set the stated rate of interest at 10%. Unfortunately, down the road, the market rate of interest increases, and investors can actually earn 12% on bonds of similar risk. Who in their right mind would pay full price for your 10% bond when they could go next door and earn 12? Nobody would. Your bond is simply less attractive. So what do? You can't change the stated rate. It's printed in the contract. The only knob you have to turn is the price. You can lower it and sell the bond for less than face. You're borrowing less money today, but you still owe the full face amount at maturity. If you pay back more than you borrowed, you can effectively pay the investor more interest, and they can actually earn that full 12% that they expected. Here's how I want you to think about a discount. Although we call the reduced price a discount, it actually represents the extra interest that we're going to pay when the bond matures. Think about that logic. Our stated rate is too low, it's below the market. Simply paying investors the stated interest in cash isn't enough to give them the return that they demand and would be willing to buy our bond. So we have to make it up to them somehow. The way we make it up is by selling them the bond for less than face, but still paying them back the full face at maturity. We borrow, say, $95,000, but we repay $100,000. That extra $5,000 at the end is real interest. It's extra interest we're paying precisely because our stated rate was too stingy. We have to pay them back more than they borrowed. And if you add that extra interest to the interest payments that we're making at the stated rate, we're able to lift the investor's effective return up to the market rate. Let's put the two concepts side by side. At issuance, we receive the discounted price, less than face. That's what actually hits our bank account, and it's the amount our liability starts out at. The carrying value of the bond begins below face, and that shortfall is the discount. We'll stick the discount in a contra liability account as a placeholder for that extra interest. Then, over the bond's life, we do two things. We pay the stated interest in cash each period. That part's the same as always. But on top of that, we're effectively paying the discount back too, as extra interest, a little bit each period until at maturity we hand over the full face amount. So the carrying value climbs period by period from the discounted price up to face. We borrowed less than face. We repay full face. The difference is extra interest. That's a discount in one breath. The math here is actually a precise method. It's called the effective interest method. The principle is simple to state. Interest expense each period equals the carrying value of the bond times the market rate. We follow the market rate, not the coupon. This is how we systematically allocate the extra interest expense over the life of the bond, rather than waiting until the end when we actually pay it in cash. The cash interest we pay is based on the stated rate, but the true interest expense is based on the market rate and applied to the carrying value, which is higher. That means every period our interest expense is bigger than the cash we actually paid out. The difference between them is the extra interest, and that difference reduces the discount. It gets added to the carrying value, nudging it up toward face. And here's a point I want to make clear, because students often think that this whole thing seems unnecessarily complicated for a regular person just trying to invest their money in the bond market. The investor, that is the bondholder, has no idea we're doing any of this. They don't see a discount account. They don't see an amortization schedule. They simply paid a price and they expect to earn the market rate on their money, period. All of this discount and amortization machinery is our behind-the-scenes bookkeeping to make sure our books reflect that the true cost of this borrowing is the market rate. The effective interest method is just us being honest about what this debt really costs us and properly matching the expense to the period that we're using the money. To keep track of our math, we're going to use an amortization table. You may have seen one of these before, possibly in a finance class. We use them all the time to allocate loan payments to principal and interest. In this case, we're going to use it to allocate the extra interest that we incorporated in our bond price so that we recognize the correct amount of interest expense each period. So all this table is doing is taking that little pile of extra interest we identified at issuance and spreading it out period by period over the life of the bond. That's it. It's an allocation schedule, nothing more. Don't worry about the numbers in this schedule, but look at the columns with me. The first column is the cash interest payment. Remember, this is the stated rate that we contractually agreed to. Notice that it's the same every period. The second column is the effective interest, what we should be paying based on what they actually borrowed, the discounted price, and the market rate of interest. The third column is the difference between the two, about $700 here, and that's the extra interest that we're going to include in this period's journal entry. Notice that every period expense exceeds cash. The discount shrinks and the carrying value climbs a little higher. The carrying value of the bond. Notice that it's increasing. It starts at the amount we actually borrowed, what we sold the bond for. And by the final period, the carrying value has climbed exactly to $100,000, the face amount, right when the bond matures. The schedule self-corrects to land precisely on the face value. And that's the whole point of the table. It allocates the extra interest so that the discount is fully amortized and the carrying value equals face on the day that we actually repay the bond. Let's look at an example. We're going to take bonds with a face value of $1,200 and a stated rate of 6%, compute their issue price using the market rate of 9%, and then build out an amortization table using the effective interest method. And then we'll record entries at issuance during the first year and at maturity. Let's go ahead and price the bond using Excel. Remember, the first thing we want to grab is the market rate of interest because we are calculating the present value of two promises. The first promise is to make a stated rate payment of 6% interest every 6 months for 2 years. And the second promise is to pay back the $1,200 face amount at the end of 2 years, the bond's maturity date. So we're discounting those two promises to the present based on the market rate of interest. So I need to grab that 9% interest. And again, also remember the two rules are to have the interest rates and double the periods when dealing with semi-annual payments. So I'm going to divide this by 2. Now I need the number of periods that I'm going to make interest payments, and that is 2 years. Multiply that by 2. And next, I need to calculate the payment on this bond. Remember, that is contractually agreed to in the bond contract. It's 6% here. So I need to take the 6% interest payment and multiply it by the face value of $1,200. And also, don't forget to divide it by 2 because it's a semi-annual payment. The future value is an amount that we are going to repay at the end of the bond's life, so the maturity date. So that's the face value of $1,200. Notice that our amortization schedule has started to fill itself out. It doesn't quite make sense yet until we finish the present value calculation. So equals present value, close parenthesis, and notice in Excel that it tells you exactly which numbers you need to grab. And we're doing 2 present value calculations in one, the present value of the annuity and the present value of the lump sum payment at the end of the year, the end of the 2 years. So first I'll grab my market rate of interest, then the number of periods of 4, the interest payment, the stated interest payment, which is 36, and I'm going to make that negative because it's a cash outflow. And this is per bond, per each individual bond. Then I'm going to take the $1,200 principal payment that I have to make at the end of the 2 years, also making that negative. And this is going to give me the price of one bond, $1,135. So one bond of $1,200, I can't actually sell for $1,200 because I'm paying 6% interest when the market rate is 9. No one's going to buy this bond unless I lower the price to $1,135. So I'm going to go ahead and make my first journal entry, which is to record the cash of $1,135 times the 500 bonds. I'm also going to skip a line and record the credit to bonds payable because that always stays the same. It's going to be the face value of the bond times the 500 bonds. This is what I must pay back at the end of the 2 years. So notice my T accounts are also filling out. And the difference between these two accounts, I have to put it somewhere. So right now I have $600,000 in my liability account. I owe $600,000. But actually, I'm borrowing less. So the difference, I need to put it in an account somewhere as a placeholder. And I'm going to call that the discount on bonds payable. And this is a contra liability account. So notice that that account is right there next to bonds payable. These two accounts are married. Together, they are the carrying value of my bond, a $600,000 credit and a $32,288 debit. Together, those two are the carrying value of my bond. Also notice that in my amortization table, that starts with the carrying value of my bond. Okay. And this discount account right here is a placeholder for an amount that I plan to move over to interest expense every time I make a cash payment on this bond. Now let's record our first 2 interest payments. So on June 30th, we have to make our first interest payment. And fortunately, our amortization table tells us exactly what to do. We are going to credit cash. We have to make an $18,000 payment. Remember, that is at 6%. So if you look at these formulas, that full column is taking the payment and multiplying it by the bonds, the number of bonds available. Okay, so that is our cash payment, $18,000. The next thing we need to do is debit interest expense. It also tells us exactly what to debit interest expense for. And that is taking the market value, or the market rate, 4.5%, and multiplying it by the carrying value. So this is what we need to be recording as interest expense, even though we're only paying $18,000. So that's what I'm going to debit, interest expense, and I'll reference that 25,547. And I'm going to be making a credit, reporting a credit to cash of $18,000. The difference here is the amount of extra interest that I'm actually incurring. I don't actually incur that extra interest until the end of the 2-year period when I pay back more than I borrowed. But for accounting purposes, I need to recognize some of that extra interest as I'm using the money rather than wait till the end. And that extra interest is this $32,288. So how much do I put into this first payment? Well, my amortization table told me exactly how much to put into my first interest payment. So I'm going to take it out of the discount on bonds payable account by crediting that account for $75.47. And now you can see that I've moved some of this $32.88 from that contra liability account over into interest expense, totaling a interest expense that actually reflects the effective rate of interest. I'm going to do the same thing for the second payment, debiting interest expense, crediting the discount on bonds payable, and crediting cash. The numbers come straight from my amortization table. So if I make my amortization table correctly, then I'll have the numbers available for my journal entries. So my debit to interest expense on December 31st is $25,887. I need to take a little bit of that extra interest out of the discount account so that I can get to that $25,887 because I'm actually only making an $18,000 payment. So there you have it. Let's review the amortization schedule real quick. We start the carrying value. Look, it's on a line all by itself. Nothing else happens on January 1st other than the issuance of the bond. We put the carrying value in the amortization table, even though we are putting $600,000 in the bond payable account, and that discount amount, that extra interest or the reduced price, goes into a contra account, making our carrying value this amount. And then we use that as an anchor to multiply by the market rate each row, right? Each time we make a payment, we multiply that by the market rate, and it shows us how much our interest expense should be. The difference here between our interest expense, what it should be, and what we're actually paying is the amount of amortization of the discount. So the amount that we're moving out of the discount account and into interest expense. It's just a placeholder for the extra interest. Let's review. When a bond's stated rate is below the market rate, we're going to have trouble finding anyone interested in buying our bond. So we sell it for less money. The reduced price represents extra interest. We borrow less than face, but repay the full face amount. Using the effective interest method, we'll recognize interest expense that actually equals the market rate because that's what we're effectively paying. We use an amortization table to allocate the discount over time methodically. Remember, the bondholder earns the market rate. The discount and the amortization schedule are just our behind-the-scenes bookkeeping.